Today's video is about towing with my 4-cylinder Turbo Jeep Wrangler. I've got an empty trailer back there. That's kind of a hybrid cross between a Harbor Freight trailer and one that I've heavily modified. So empty, it shouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think, but I'm going to get a yard of dirt, probably some, I think I'm going to get sandy soil mix, either that or I'm going to get premium topsoil, one of the two. And I think a yard of dirt generally weighs about a ton, so about 2,000 pounds. I'm guessing that trailer empty probably weighs 600 to 700 pounds. So I should be at about 2,500, 2,600, 2,700, somewhere under 3,000 pounds. And this Jeep's towing capacity is 3,500 pounds. Now, just because it says it can tow 3,500 pounds, that just means that the frame of the Jeep can handle that much weight. It doesn't mean that the engine will be happy pulling that much weight. It's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, gasoline direct injected. It's actually a pretty peppy engine, but I've towed a couple of times my little small dirt bike trailer. That's all I've towed with this thing so far, and I could tell it was back there. Now, to put this in perspective, my other vehicle is a Ram 2500 Cummins. So I mean, obviously this isn't the vehicle that I use normally when pulling a big load. It's about to load it up in the trailer. Oh man, that's a yard. That is a full, that is, oh dang. I ain't complaining. I do like it when they give me a little extra at most times. I know there's been times before where I've come and ordered a certain amount and gotten way more, and then you got to figure out what to do with the rest. But for this particular case, I don't mind getting a little extra. I'm just kind of leveling some low spots in the yard, and I have some low spots back in the woods I kind of want to level. Alright, I'm going to pull off over here and go back and check, see what this trailer looks like. Oh, that's not too bad. That looks like about a yard. So that tire looks like it needs a little bit of air. The Jeep looks fine. It doesn't look like it's squatting or anything. And that one needs a little bit of air. So both the tires look a little low. So it's at 19 and a half. Let me see. I haven't used this thing before. I'm gonna put it up to 30. The sidewall says it should be 44 PSI, so I probably actually want to take this thing up closer to 40 to 44, since this is probably close to a full load. All right, there, it stopped at 30. I think I'm gonna go actually to 40. Little bit that I know about these radial tires is their payload is directly related to how much air is in the tire. And it doesn't take long to heat these things up and have a blowout if you're underinflated. I think that seems to be the biggest issue, at least in my experience with trailer tires, is they blow out, sometimes because they establish a leak while you're driving, and sometimes just because people don't check the pressure before they leave. Got that one inflated to 40 PSI. It looks a whole lot better now. While that other one's inflating, I'm gonna talk a little bit about this trailer. This thing started out, I've had this trailer for a long time. It started out as a Harbor Freight trailer. I bought it brand new from Harbor Freight. Right now, the only thing left that's Harbor Freight on this thing is the actual frame there itself. It's like some kind of a rolled steel. It's not even a structural channel. It's pretty light duty, but it's also really cheap. And for its purpose, for a 1,000-pound trailer, it's actually not too bad. The problem is that these things, if you overload them by just a couple 100 pounds, they're done. I hauled some bags of concrete on this thing, and I think I've had 1,200 pounds of bags on it, and the wheel bearing seized up and blew the tire out because it overheated. So I hadn't barely even overloaded the thing. And I mean, you know, I shouldn't overload it, but sometimes you don't really think too much about it when you're at the hardware store buying stuff. You're just like, well, it's a trailer, throw it on there. So I have gone through over time and changed things out and improved it. So this tongue, I cut the original tongue off. Well, first off, I welded all the joints instead of using the bolts. And this was some of my first welding jobs, and so the welds don't look that great, but they seem to hold. I haven't ever had a problem with them breaking. So I've welded all the joints. I built this rail, which really stiffened the whole thing up. That's really where it gets its strength from. These are original too, the fenders. I just welded them onto that rail. But that tire, or I've changed the axle out because I burned up the axle, the original axle. So that's I went to Northern Tool and bought, I think it's a 2,500 pound, 2,400 pound axle. And I got new hubs and bearings for 5 lug wheels. That's 5 on 4.5. And then those are Ford Ranger wheels. I went on Craigslist and bought 3 Ford Ranger wheels. And then I mounted LT tires. Those are Ford Ranger LT tires. So that's a huge difference from the Harbor Freight, those tiny little 12-inch tires that they burn up, and you can't even go faster than 50. You're not supposed to go faster than 55 with them because they get so hot. You've got, so the tongue I've changed out. This is structural 3-inch channel. This is not that rolled stuff that comes on the Harbor Freight trailer by default. And then I've welded on a 2-inch receiver hitch. That's a 5,000 pound hitch. Not that I can put 5,000 on it. You know, the payload of your trailer is the weakest point. So whatever the weakest point is, that's what you've got. Sounds like it finished. I've got these OSB scrap wood sides just to hold dirt on it, but it's not a bad little trailer for its weight capacity. All right, 40 PSI. The 4-cylinder 2-liter Turbo Wrangler, how it handles pulling a trailer. So I don't have trailer brakes on the truck or the trailer, but this Wrangler, as far as the performance and lift and all that, is all still stock. So I've been pretty happy with the stock brakes. Okay, here we go. So I don't suspect they're gonna have any problem at all pulling this load. Now I do have the top down. I've got an alien sunshade up there. Pretty excited about that. That's been kind of nice. I can ride with the top down more often and it doesn't get as blazing hot in here. So for the first little bit of this drive, it's just 35-mile-an-hour roads, and there's actually a line of cars up in front of me. This engine produces most of its torque at like 2,000 RPMs or something like that, according to some chart that I saw online. So it feels good going low speed. I think the problem I'm gonna have is when I get up to high speed and I get to the hills. There are a decent amount of hills between here and my house. So this low speed acceleration actually feels really good. I mean, I wasn't pushing it hard, but just then, but it was moving. I just reset my fuel trip info. I'm gonna see what mileage I get. It's not gonna be a very accurate number because I'm not going very far. Interestingly enough, I've got roughly 4,200 miles on this Wrangler so far, and my mileage, I've done a lot of highway miles, and the mileage has been really good. I've been impressed. I usually do about 23 or 24 on the highway. I've seen up as high as 26 for just one long stretch of highway where I'm not getting off and exiting and doing stuff. I just reset when I get on the highway, and then when I get to my destination, you know, maybe 2 or 3 hours later, I exit and it's saying 26. That's pretty darn good, in my opinion. All right, about to pull out onto the road. Gotta give it, push down a little bit, give it some gas. I'm pulling out onto a higher speed road. going uphill. And it is flying, relatively speaking. I did not expect it to do that. Again, I'm not hardly even pushing it. It just climbed up the hill. I'm already going 47. It was a nice steady climb the whole way. So right now I'm doing 55. It says I'm averaging 17.6 over the last 4.8 miles. Again, not like this is a good illustration, but this is a very windy up and down road. Windy and hilly. I did have to stop because the vehicle I was following was pulling an RV and they were making a right turn, and that was like halfway up a hill. So I went from 0 back up, and I was doing 37 by the time I got to the top of the hill, and I wasn't flooring it. That was about the speed I wanted to accelerate at. So I've been pretty happy. I would be interested how this thing pulls on the highway doing, you know, 65 or 70, and see how that changes things. But as far as, you know, 55, it's pulling great. Now a couple other things that, you know, pulling dead weight like this trailer, there's not a lot of wind resistance, and I've noticed, let's pretend this thing weighs 3,000 pounds. If you hook up a 3,000 pound enclosed trailer, that's going to be a different story, because that's a big parachute that's going to be flinging you all around the place. You're going to want trailer brakes and all that kind of stuff. But this dead weight actually feels pretty good to tow. The load's not shifting or anything like that. It's a lie if someone says you can't even tell it's back there. You can tell it's back there, but it's driving. I mean, if this is how my vehicle just drove on a normal day, I wouldn't be like, man, this thing's terrible, it's slow. It's pulling fine. Just pulled back into my driveway, 12.9 miles on the trip meter, and it says I got 18.2 miles per gallon. That's better than I would have thought. Now, of course, this little navigating around tight corners and stuff is awesome with the Wrangler compared to a 3/4 ton diesel. You can get in and out of these trees real easily. There we have it. We made it back. There's the Wrangler. Looks great. Doesn't even look like it's got too much of a load on it. And then there's the trailer. It all made it. It pulled really well. I'm happy with it. I didn't test it at 70 miles an hour or anything high speed. It was pretty much 55, 60 was the top I went. Most of the roads I did in the 13 miles that it took me to get back here was 45 mile an hour roads. So not real high speed, but no problem at all. I was actually very impressed. It did a lot better than I thought. Who could imagine a 2-liter turbo, well, a 4-cylinder, I guess. You know, I come from the large displacement background, so I really hesitated getting this thing, but you know, ultimately I went with it because I have a Cummins, a 6.7 Cummins that I generally use when I need heavy duty towing, so I really didn't need heavy duty towing out of this Jeep, and so far it seems like it's decent at it. Actually, it's very impressive. I'm gonna get to unloading this dirt. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Thanks.